This will be the last review of my scrapped projects of Valentine's Half Month 6, and depending on what happens towards the end of this year, while I get the chance to review a material that I ended up scrapping, that's depending on how I feel after Summerpalooza 5 Steven Universe Marathon. I'm just saying, out of all the videos I wanted to revisit, aside from the ones that I've already uploaded over the course of the last several months or so, this ended up becoming one of the final projects I want to do, mainly the fact that you wouldn't even remember Gibby like this if you're into the later seasons of iCarly. This episode sums up a lot that I just miss Gibby this way than how he was portrayed in the later seasons. I mean, if you want to have him not take off his shirt anymore in the later seasons, that's fine, but at the same time, when it comes to his IQ, you clearly don't know how well written he was in this episode. Back in the episode's I Speed Date, it's revealed that Gibby is in a relationship with Tasha, and in this episode, iEnrage Gibby, we get to see him hanging out with Tasha while also having him and Tasha being the focus of what happens towards the middle of the episode. Tasha needed a birthday present for Gibby, so Freddy takes her upstairs to show her a perfect present for Gibby, and then when she gets a text from Gibby, she accidentally tripped on Freddy, which leads to Gibby believing that Tasha is cheating on him, all the while that Freddy is coming after Tasha behind his back. He demands a fight against Freddy, which leads to them fighting in the iCarly studio, which the original fight was supposed to happen at the gym. And it sums up everything that Gibby's character really took a different turn in the later seasons, knowing full well that he actually has a brain to understand what's really going on in front of him. Like, through the majority of the episode, the other characters question why Tasha is hanging out with Gibby, which makes sense when they view Gibby as the weirdest kid in school. But looking at this episode now, especially since I scrapped it multiple times, including from last year's Summerpalooza, it made me see that Gibby is capable of doing things that no one else would really thought that he would be capable of doing. And if Tasha sees something in him, then maybe it sums up a lot that Gibby and Tasha have their own thing, which is something that people just do not understand. This isn't really a toxic relationship in comparison to the other toxic relationships from any other show or from the Dan Schneider universe, mainly Jade and Beck from Victorious. When it comes to Freddy in this episode, this is easily one of his best performances in better episodes, mainly the fact that he was in the wrong. And when it comes to what he deals with in the second half, is a whole lot better than what he went through in I Meet Fred and any of the other episodes that he gets mostly mistreated. Like, it's really obvious that Sam is training Gibby in order to see Freddy get beat up, which, in all honesty, sums up a lot of Sam's character in this. But since this only happens towards the end of the episode, before the fight even takes place, if this ended up happening in the first half of the episode, well, Tasha accidentally tripped Freddy a little earlier, then I'm pretty sure that Sam would have trained Gibby without hesitation. She may have done that in the second half of this episode, but at the same time, if we ended up going with that direction of having her train Gibby early on, then she would have been a lot more unlikable, which sums up a lot that for how she is portrayed in this episode, this is easily the least of how she treats Freddy. Let's get into the subplot where it centers around Spencer being dead that people are following from the newspapers, and it's indicated that people still read the newspapers, including Freddy's mom. And because Spencer's supposedly died, his sculptures end up becoming more valuable thanks to the art critics, which Spencer gets in on the ideal in order to get more money, even if it means by staying inside of his apartment 24/7. This subplot is mainly showcasing that Spencer is doing this for the sake of getting more money while realizing what it's like on getting the money when it comes to him being supposedly dead, while also not realizing the consequences when it comes to him being a fraud of death. Which, the only consequences that he ends up getting is mainly one of his former dates seeing him in person while also leaving for the sake of realizing that all this was a fake and Spencer was a joke the entire time. He didn't really get any other consequences when it comes to the other art critics and other people learning that he was dead all this time, all the while that it was a huge misunderstanding that led to Spencer continuing that misunderstanding and to get money off of it. The way I look at it, even if Spencer deserves having his former dates reject him after witnessing that all this was a lie, you can still relate to a situation on pretending that he's dead, because it's honestly difficult for him to easily handle the lie itself, which for me personally, in the real world, if you go through this scenario, you will actually get more severe consequences. And considering that Spencer doesn't get any consequences whatsoever, I can totally understand on top why Dan Schneider views Spencer as his self-insulted, childlike personality in the show, mainly the fact that for how Spencer never got arrested whatsoever in the same ways as Jeanette McCurdy's character did. Yeah, if this wasn't another indicator that Dan Schneider wants to be superior while making these episodes, then no, not really. I understand that the character Jerry Trainer didn't know anything about this, but as far as I'm concerned, with so many indications when it comes to these Dan Schneider shows, with The Quiet on the Set documentary released months ago, showcasing the worst behind the scenes, it's gonna be really, really difficult to view these episodes like they were back then, because at this point, every single media from anything can age a lot more differently, which is honestly the sad reality. Getting back to the main plot, way earlier in the episode, Carly and Sam were doing a skit involving a peanut butter and jelly sandwich being turned into what, and they had a rotting sandwich cam in order to showcase it, but this gave Freddy an idea by showing it to Gibby that everything was a whole misunderstanding, that Tasha tripped on him on accident. He did feel like a toad, but the plus side when it comes to his walkout is the fact that he used it to full use against Noah from iPsycho. That's literally the good that comes out of this, but it's still a good thing that he and Freddy didn't end up fighting, because judging of how Freddy was unprepared, which sums up a lot that he wants to take care of the situation, that it was all a misunderstanding, showcases that he doesn't really need to fight Gibby, even if he was forced to, but thank God that he wasn't forced to. This episode is the most underrated when it comes to Season 3 and possibly the entire series. And it really shows that with Gibby having IQ in comparison with him not having IQ in the later seasons, made me see his character a lot more in this, because if we see him being with Tasha with no IQ, then I wouldn't believe it in the slightest. Granted, Gibby and Tasha are not gonna be exclusive from Gibby's words in the following season, but at the same time, it wasn't like I was expecting much from Tasha's character. Sometimes there are ways of seeing more characters gain more spotlight, but when it comes to iCarly, characters like Tasha didn't really need to have another return, to have another major focus for the sake of having another character improve. Believe me, just because I'm not like the other characters when it comes to how awkward it is for Gibby to be in a relationship with a girl like Tasha, but at the same time I wasn't expecting more from Gibby's character when it comes to his relationship with Tasha. I was expecting more on his own character rather than his relationship with others. I'm giving this episode a 7.25 out of 10.